Have you ever felt like the world's news is just this relentless torrent, constantly pulling you in like a million different directions?
Right.
1 minute, you're trying to get your head around some complex geopolitical conflict, halfway across the globe.
Right.
Then boom, you're learning about some new tech innovation that's kind of subtly reshaping everything. Before you even process that, there's another headline about the climate doing something, well, unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is. It's overwhelming, isn't it? More than just information, it feels like this giant tangled web, and you end up feeling lost, not informed.
Exactly. Lost is the word.
And that's precisely why we started this show. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
We like to think of it as your shortcut, your way to actually be well-informed without getting totally buried in that avalanche we were just talking about.
That's the mission. We take the day's biggest headlines, the important stuff, and we unpack it for you. Peel back the layers.
Trying to reveal not just the surface facts, but maybe those surprising bits, the crucial insights hiding underneath.
We want to show you not just what's happening, but really why it matters. To you, to everyone, globally.
That really is the core of it. And today, wow, we're plunging headfirst into a truly rich, incredibly diverse mix of global news.
We really are. We're going to touch on, well, everything. Intense geopolitical stuff, heartbreaking humanitarian crises.
Yeah, those are dominating. But also those quieter shifts, in technology, the economy.
Even some unique cultural moments from around the world that maybe you haven't heard about.
Our promise to you is we'll try to explore different angles, connect the dots that maybe don't seem connected.
And help make sense of it all. Make sense of a world that, let's be honest, often feels pretty chaotic.
So think of us as your guides through this. We'll navigate these complex stories, aiming for clarity, definitely balance.
Impartiality is key. We'll bring you the details, the context, hoping for those aha moments, the ones that actually stick with you.
And we'll try to keep it engaging. Learning about the world shouldn't feel like homework.
Yeah, exactly. So let's unpack this. Global flashpoints and humanitarian crises.
Okay, we really have to start with the situation in Gaza. It's just incredibly dire, intensifying, a humanitarian catastrophe really unfolding right before our eyes.
It is. The latest reports from Al Jazeera, for instance, paint a truly grim picture. Over 70 Palestinians killed recently.
And the detail that just jumps out, 42 of those people were killed while they were actively seeking aid.
It's heartbreaking. And this is happening amidst what aid groups, doctors on the ground are calling a rapidly deepening starvation crisis across the whole territory.
The statistics, the ones coming directly from hospitals, they're just chilling.
They are. They've recorded 127 deaths directly from hunger, and unbelievably, 85 of those were children.
85 children. It's hard to even comprehend.
And this catastrophic toll, it's largely due to what multiple sources, including the UN Relief and Works Agency, that's UNRWA.
Right, UNRWA. They're the main UN body for Palestinian refugees, a critical lifeline there.
Exactly. They describe it as an ongoing Israeli blockade, something that's significantly hindering the consistent flow of essentials, food, water, medicine.
The images we're seeing.
Yeah.
People scrambling for any aid, or worse, being killed trying to get it. It just shows how desperate things are.
It's a stark testament, absolutely. Now, in response to all this, the mounting international pressure, the condemnation.
Israel has announced plans to enhance its humanitarian response.
Yes, the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, they've stated they'd open more humanitarian corridors, initiate aid airdrops.
They even announced that tactical pause, right?
Yeah.
From 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily in parts of Gaza, supposedly to help aid delivery.
It's a significant shift in language, especially given earlier denials from Israel about, the extent of the starvation claims.
There's a pretty strong counter-narrative to these efforts, isn't there?
Yeah.
Especially from people actually on the ground.
Oh, very strong. Philippe Lazzarini, he's the head of UNRWA. He's been exceptionally critical.
What did he say about the airdrops?
He called them a smokescreen. Argued quite pointedly they're just symbolic gestures. They won't effectively address the crisis at scale.
So what's his alternative?
He's been very vocal, calling for the blockade to be lifted entirely, and for reliance on established, systematic aid channels like the land crossings.
Which makes sense, doesn't it? Seems more efficient.
He argues they're far more efficient, much safer, more equitable for large-scale distribution. He stresses airdrops are costly, inefficient, and frankly, dangerous. They often lead to chaos, even deadly scenes, as desperate people rush to get these scattered parcels.
And adding another layer of complication, we've seen these incidents of aid being intercepted.
Yes, undeniably. Like when Israeli forces stormed that Gaza-bound activist boat, the Handala, it was in international waters.
Part of the Freedom Flotilla, wasn't it, trying to deliver aid?
Exactly, and intercepting it obviously disrupted that mission. It feeds directly into that narrative of a deliberate blockade, regardless of the stated intentions about tactical pauses or airdrops.
It brings us to this really difficult question, doesn't it? About the bigger picture.
It does. This dual approach, you see. Countries denouncing Israel's actions, the suffering in Gaza.
But at the same time, 28 nations still doing over $1 billion in trade with Israel.
Exactly. What does that mean for international diplomacy, for actually doing something about the humanitarian crisis?
It's complex. That relationship between public condemnation and these ongoing economic, maybe even strategic ties.
It highlights the huge challenges in pushing for real intervention. It raises fundamental questions about how effective diplomatic pressure actually is when those core economic relationships stay strong.
Because some of these countries aren't just trading partners, are they?
No, some are key suppliers of, say, defense technology to Israel. So you get this deeply contradictory foreign policy. The moral imperative to help clashes with strategic alliances, economic self-interest.
So diplomatic pressure is important for awareness, but maybe lacks the immediate teeth.
Often, yes. It shapes opinion, raises awareness, which is vital. But it might not have the leverage to force fundamental policy shifts if those foundational economic and military ties remain intact. It's an incredibly difficult tightrope for these nations to walk.
Absolutely. And the human cost, as we said, just tragically clear and climbing. Okay, let's shift slightly. Other global flashpoints. We're seeing continued terror and instability in both Iran and Sudan. Let's start with Iran.
Right. In Iran, there's been a significant internal security challenge. A recent terrorist attack targeted a courthouse in the southeast, Sistan and Baluchistan province.
Okay, casualties.
The reports varied a bit. RT, that's the Russian state network, said 6 killed, 22 wounded. Yahoo News reported 9 dead. So some discrepancy there.
And who claimed responsibility?
A Pakistan-based jihadist group, Jaish al-Adal. They took responsibility. Their tactics involved gunmen trying to infiltrate the building, a shootout with police.
And suicide vests, too, I read.
Yes, chillingly, suicide vests were involved. It indicates a pretty well-planned, brutal attack. This specific border region, it has a history of clashes, often targeting Iran's Balak Sunni minority.
So ongoing ethnic and sectarian tensions being exploited.
Precisely. It highlights the persistent internal security threats Iran faces, especially along those porous borders with Pakistan and Afghanistan where various groups operate.
Okay, and then Sudan. That sounds incredibly worrying, too. A parallel government.
Yeah, in war-torn Sudan, this is a really concerning development. The paramilitary-led coalition, they call themselves TASIS, has essentially declared its own government.
Challenging the existing military guys who took power after Bashir was overthrown back in 2019.
Exactly. And the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, that's Mohammed Hemeti Dagalo, often known as Hemeti, he's set to chair this new presidential council. It could really cement the country's division.
What are they saying they want to achieve? Their stated aims?
Well, on paper, it sounds noble. A secular, democratic, decentralized Sudan.
But this is happening against a backdrop of just horrific violence, right?
Absolutely. Ongoing, brutal violence that's torn the country apart. And the RSF itself, Hemeti's group, they've been accused of severe human rights abuses. Widespread sexual violence as a weapon of war, things like that. It's led to U.S. sanctions against their leadership.
It just reflects that deep instability since Bashir was removed. Coups, power struggles, no clear path forward.
And this parallel government, it signals a potential fragmentation of Sudan into like de facto warring states. It makes any effort towards a lasting political solution even more complicated.
And the human cost. I read that harrowing story about the 2 childhood friends in Khartoum.
Yes, Khalid al-Sadiq and a musician, their experiences, just unimaginable torture, inhumane confinement, forced labor under the RSF.
The detail about being forced to dig graves.
It's gruesome. It provides such a stark, personal look at the conflict's human cost. These aren't just abstract political moves or statistics. These are real people enduring horrific trauma. It's a vital reminder of the individual suffering behind the headlines, political maneuvers, and international relations.
Okay, let's pivot now to the, well, sometimes fascinating, sometimes just baffling world of political maneuvers, international relations. Starting with former President Trump's recent trip to Scotland.
Yes, the diplomatic golf trip.
Right. It really does blur the lines, doesn't it? Politics and family business. It coincided perfectly with the opening of his new golf course.
It's a very characteristic move, blending personal enterprise with, well, what looked like public diplomacy.
But beyond the golf, the main stated purpose was that meeting with the EU chief, Ursula von der Leyen.
A very high-stakes meeting. The goal was to try and clinch a trade deal, avert a potential trade war before a deadline Trump himself had set for Friday.
What were the sticking points? Tariffs, I assume.
Big time. Tariffs on various goods, the implications for industries on both sides, agriculture, manufacturing, you name it. A negotiation that really could reshape global commerce, with significant economic disruption hanging in the balance.
And then, almost surprisingly, he also got involved in mediating between Thailand and Cambodia.
Yes, mediating ceasefire talks. They're engaged in an armed border conflict.
Both countries thanked him for it, didn't they? Publicly.
They did, which you might think is a positive sign. But here's the kicker, as you say. Despite his intervention, the shelling, the clashes, they've just continued.
What's the toll there?
Sources note over 30 fatalities already and maybe 200,000 people displaced. It stems from this really bitter, centuries-old feud over ancient temple complexes, border points, decades of tension.
Malaysia's trying to mediate now, too.
Yes, highlighting just how difficult it is, the limits of even high-level external intervention when conflicts are this entrenched.
It's that unintended irony, isn't it? The source saying Trump's ceasefire push fails to halt the conflict.
Exactly. It underscores how deep some disputes run, especially with history, territory, national identity tied up in places like ancient temples. Good intentions don't always bring immediate peace in international diplomacy. It's often much messier.
And while all this was happening, the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he also planned to talk to Trump in Scotland about Gaza.
Yes, he intended to raise it, emphasizing the urgent need to end the suffering there. Reflects that growing global consensus, especially in Europe, that the humanitarian crisis needs immediate, decisive action.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Russia. Some interesting geopolitical moves and rhetoric happening there.
Definitely. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova made a notable call. She wants an international day against Russophobia.
And she labeled it pretty strongly, didn't she? Extremist ideology.
She did. She claims anti-Russian propaganda has fueled tragedies like the conflict in Ukraine. She cited Ukraine's alleged erasure of Russian cultural elements and accused the US and EU of deliberately overlooking repression of Russian speakers in Ukraine.
This raises that whole question about using phobia labels in international talk, doesn't it?
It really does. On one hand, it can highlight legitimate concerns about discrimination, xenophobia, which are real issues for any group. But on the other hand,
critics, especially in the West, might see it as a political tool. A way to deflect criticism from Russia's own actions, particularly, obviously, the invasion of Ukraine. It's a very delicate rhetorical line. How you perceive it really depends on your existing viewpoint, your interpretation of the conflict's origins.
Right. And another move from Russia, President Putin relaxing rules for Moldovan citizens working there.
Yes, relaxing entry and employment regulations. This comes when relations with Moldova's pro-EU government are, well, highly strained. Moldova's been leaning increasingly towards the West.
So what do these relaxed rules actually mean?
The decree lets Moldovan nationals work in Russia without needing a permit, extends their registration time. It affects a lot of people, maybe around 500,000 Moldovan citizens currently in Russia. But this isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? There are accusations of Russian meddling in Moldova.
Exactly. A very tense backdrop. Accusations that Moscow is actively interfering in Moldova's affairs, trying to undermine President Maya Sandu's pro-European administration, which wants closer ties with the EU.
So it looks like a gesture to workers, but it could be seen as geopolitical leverage.
Many analysts certainly see it that way, exerting influence over a neighbor by leveraging economic reliance, potentially creating internal divisions. It's classic soft power or maybe economic pressure in a politically charged situation.
Makes sense. And sticking with the EU theme, there's continued tension over Ukraine's membership ambitions, particularly from Hungary.
Yes, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He's consistently voiced really strong concerns. He argues Ukraine joining fully could directly threaten Hungary's security, even turn Hungary into a battlefield because they share a border and there's an active war next door.
So what's his proposal instead?
He suggests a strategic partnership for Ukraine with the EU rather than full membership. He emphasizes the huge financial and security risks of integrating a war-torn nation. He's been very critical of the EU Commission's budget proposal to fund Ukraine's membership path.
Framing it as national survival, fiscal responsibility for Hungary.
Pretty much, echoing concerns about instability and the economic burden.
And the Ukraine conflict keeps being a flashpoint between the U.S. and China, too.
Yes. We saw a heated exchange recently at the UN Security Council. The acting U.S. ambassador straight up accused China of secretly aiding Moscow in the conflict.
How did China respond?
Vehemently denied it, emphasized strict export controls on dual-use items, things that could have both civilian and military uses, stated clearly they didn't start the war, maintain neutrality.
But the U.S. position is different.
The U.S. maintains Chinese firms are helping Russia bypass Western sanctions, particularly by exporting goods with potential military applications, even if not direct weapons.
While Beijing offers to mediate.
Right. Beijing offers mediation, urges diplomacy, and argues strongly that the sanctions themselves are destabilizing global supply chains, hurting the world economy. This public clash at the UN, it just highlights these complex, often contradictory positions. It's a deeper geopolitical struggle playing out.
Okay, let's look at some domestic political quirks that somehow grab global attention. They tell us something about power, maybe democracy, Cameroon, for instance. Election controversy.
Big controversy. The Electoral Commission there just rejected the candidacy of Maurice Kamto. He's seen as the main rival to President Paul Biya.
And they rejected him without giving any reason.
Exactly. No stated reasons given, which immediately raises red flags everywhere.
Fueling fears of unrest, I imagine, especially given their history.
Definitely. Past elections have had allegations of fraud, consistently low voter turnout. President Biya, he's 92 now, the world's oldest serving head of state. He's seeking another term, despite health rumors, internal challenges like corruption, that secessionist conflict in the Anglophone regions.
So rejecting his main rival without explanation, it looks like business as usual.
It suggests a continuation of those long-standing dynamics where the incumbent often keeps power through means that aren't exactly transparent. Undermines democratic process, risks public discontent. It's a pattern you see in some long-standing regimes.
And then Argentina. A very different kind of unique dynamic with President Milei's sister.
Yes, Corina Milei. She's really emerged as the main strategist, maybe even the kingmaker in the ruling La Libertad Avanza party.
She has the final say on candidates. Really?
Reportedly, yes. Consolidating her influence despite some internal power struggles, criticism about her lack of formal political experience.
It reflects her commitment to her brother's project, working behind the scenes.
Deep personal and professional commitment. It's a fascinating look at how family ties, loyalty, unconventional figures can reshape politics, even in a democracy. She holds immense power, but not in a traditional public-facing role. It shows the influence of those inner circles, climate, tech, and societal shifts.
All right, let's move on to our planet, how we interact with it. Climate on the front lines feels increasingly urgent every day. We've seen really concerning updates on wildfires spreading across the Mediterranean, Greece, and Turkey specifically.
Well, residents near Athens in Greece, they've been told to evacuate. Fires spreading rapidly, fueled by incredibly dry conditions, intense heat.
What's the forecast? It looked brutal.
Forecasted to reach 44 degrees Celsius in Greece. That's over 111 Fahrenheit, plus strong winds. It's just a perfect storm for these destructive fires.
In Turkey?
Equally dire, wildfires threatening Bursa, which is the country's fourth largest city. Hundreds evacuated there, too. Intense firefighting efforts, over 1,100 firefighters involved. Officials calling it an apocalypse.
And tragically, a firefighter lost their life in Turkey.
Yes, underscoring the extreme dangers they face. These events are just stark reminders, aren't they? Escalating intensity, frequency of extreme weather due to climate change, huge pressure on infrastructure, emergency services, human lives. The economic cost alone is staggering.
And it's not just the Med. North America is facing severe weather warnings, too.
Forecasters are sounding alarms. Warning signs pile up for the Atlantic hurricane season. They're anticipating a dangerous August, potentially a more intense, unpredictable season than first thought.
And meanwhile, heat across the U.S.
Millions facing sweltering, oppressive heat. Advisories out for the Southeast, Midwest. Unusually oppressive late July temperatures. Health warnings, especially for vulnerable people.
Now, something maybe less obvious connecting climate change and geology. Sinkholes.
Yeah, it's fascinating, if alarming. Experts suggest sinkholes are becoming more likely because of climate change effects.
How does that work?
While droughts mean lower groundwater levels, reduced rainfall means less replenishment of underground aquifers. This makes the ground less stable, more susceptible to collapse. When that water table drops, boom, you can get these sudden, dangerous sinkholes. It's a geological consequence of changing weather patterns you might not immediately think of.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The evolving digital landscape, how it's reshaping society. The UK has a new law about age verification for porn sites.
Yes, under their Online Safety Act. A big step aimed at protecting kids online. They need to verify user age now.
Is it working?
Well, 6,000 sites apparently committed to doing it, but reports say at least one major site wasn't conducting checks yet, so it raises questions about enforcement, effectiveness. It's a massive regulatory challenge, really.
And that kind of ties into this whole debate about AI and reality, doesn't it? That AI model in vogue.
For gas, yeah. The first AI-generated model featured in a major fashion ad like that. It immediately sparked conversations about realness, about ideal beauty standards in fashion, blurring the lines between human and artificial.
Are we heading towards, like, a completely simulated idea of beauty? What does that even mean for us?
It's a huge question. Technology isn't just assisting anymore. It's actively creating and shaping cultural norms, a whole deep dive in itself, as you said.
Definitely. Okay, shifting to geopolitical tech. Iran deciding to ditch GPS.
Yeah, abandoning the U.S.-developed global positioning system and instead exploring China's Beidou navigation system.
This feels significant. More than just changing sat-navs.
Oh, it signifies a broader global realignment, driven by concerns about Western digital dominance, surveillance capabilities, especially given sanctions and tensions.
So it's about strategic independence, aligning with China.
Exactly. Greater independence from Western tech, aligning more closely with China's Belt and Road Initiative. It points towards this emerging tech Cold War. Nations prioritizing political allegiance, national security, and their choice of critical digital infrastructure, sometimes over maybe pure technological superiority.
Reshaping power dynamics, potentially fragmenting the global digital world.
That's the concern. New spheres of tech influence, questions about data sovereignty, digital espionage. It's a big shift.
Okay, turning to societal shifts closer to home, maybe. The UK is seeing this massive surge in phone pickpocketing.
Dramatic surge. Claims are up 425% since June 2021. London accounts for nearly half of all incidents.
Wow. Official data shows a 50% rise in theft from the person, costing Londoners £70 million.
Huge numbers. And the reasons being cited are complex. Economic pressures, deteriorating living standards, pushing people towards crime.
And links to criminal networks, migration issues.
Yes, disturbing links to illegal migration routes, increasingly sophisticated criminal networks. It highlights significant societal economic factors contributing to this decline in public safety in some big cities. It's not just petty crime, it reflects deeper systemic issues affecting people's sense of security.
And finally, in the U.S., these intense free speech debates playing out legally. Professors suing the Trump administration.
Yes, over policies that allegedly led to arrests, detentions, visa cancellations, even deportations of students involved in pro-Palestinian advocacy on campuses.
What's the argument against those policies?
Civil liberties advocates see it as creating a chilling effect across U.S. academia, potentially stifling political viewpoints the government doesn't like, especially on controversial international issues.
Sparking a bigger debate about constitutional rights.
Exactly. First Amendment, free speech, government overreach, academic freedom, the right to protest on campus. It forces that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
How do you balance national security concerns with fundamental democratic freedoms, human interest, and everyday economics?
All right, let's move into some public safety stories, notable crimes that have really caught attention, starting with that horrific incident in Michigan.
Yeah, the Walmart stabbing in Traverse City, Michigan. Just brutal, seemingly random. At least 11 people stabbed, 6 critically injured.
Suspect in custody, but no clear motive yet.
Not that's been released, no. The FBI is involved, supporting local authorities, which shows how serious it is.
And then that tragic shooting on a university campus.
At the University of New Mexico, a student housing complex. A 14-year-old boy just playing video games inside was killed.
Suspect arrested there, too.
Yes, but it raises huge concerns about campus safety, doesn't it? The vulnerability of these spaces just reminds you how quickly normal life can be shattered.
And some news that brings, maybe, a difficult kind of closure. The landlord convicted in that hate crime attack in 2023?
Joseph Touba, yes. The landlord who stabbed the Palestinian-American boy. He's died in prison. It brings an end to that legal chapter, at least, for the victim's family and the community, though the pain remains, of course.
Shifting globally, reports about China suppressing news coverage.
Yahoo News reporting that, yeah. Suppressing coverage of deadly attacks inside China, including a recent horrifying incident, a car striking children near an elementary school in Beijing.
And the aftermath photos just scrubbed from the internet.
Reportedly scrubbed almost immediately from China's tightly controlled internet and social media. This led to demands for truth, transparency online, where people could get around the censorship. It really highlights those issues of censorship, information control, prioritizing stability over public disclosure, even in terrible tragedies.
Okay, on a lighter note, maybe, though still concerning. That fraudster festival planner in the UK.
James Kenney. Convicted fraudster. Falsely claiming huge Glastonbury headliners like The Killers. Wetleg would play his make-believe festival.
Just made it all up.
Seems so. A bizarre case, but it illustrates the risks, doesn't it? Fraudulent events, the need for consumer vigilance. Always check those lineups and ticket sources carefully.
Good advice. And then, turning back to tragedy, an attack in the DR Congo.
Democratic Republic of Congo, yes. Around 20 churchgoers killed during a night vigil. Armed men attacked, and it's been linked to the Islamic State group.
Just showcasing that ongoing threat of terrorism, regional instability.
Exactly, particularly in areas already struggling with conflict, fragile governance, extremist groups exploiting vulnerabilities, targeting civilians. It's horrific.
Okay, let's delve into economics, personal finance, stuff that hits home for millions. Here's a puzzle. Stocks at record highs, but tariffs looming, economic uncertainty. What gives?
It is puzzling market watchers. Some theories involve things like a short squeeze.
Explain that quickly.
Basically, investors bet a stock's price will fall. If it rises instead, they're forced to buy shares to cover their losses, which pushes the price up even more. An unexpected rally.
But beyond that specific financial stuff,
Wall Street seems increasingly wary about the consumer. Disappointing earnings reports, weak flows in certain sectors, they're exposing cracks in household demand.
especially for lower-income folks.
Particularly among lower-income Americans, yeah. They're feeling the pinch of inflation, economic pressures the most. It suggests a potential big shift in consumer spending. The overall economy might not be as rosy as the stock market numbers look, especially for average households.
Raises questions about how sustainable this rally is, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Is it real economic health or just specific financial maneuvers disconnected from Main Street reality?
And speaking of household finances, that report from the UK about pensions, almost half of adults not paying into one.
Almost half not paying into a private or workplace pension. It's a pretty significant, alarming statistic. Sparks a vital discussion about financial planning, long-term security, retirement readiness for a huge chunk of the population.
Sound like a looming crisis if that trend holds.
Could place massive strain on state resources down the line, yes.
Meanwhile, Ghana's looking at something pretty innovative. A 24-hour economy.
Exploring it as a way to boost national growth, yeah. Proponents argue extending business hours, services could boost productivity, create jobs, accelerate advancement.
But it's not a magic bullet, right?
No, it's emphasized it has to be part of a broader strategy. Needs huge infrastructure investment, better security, changes in societal habits, but reflects that global search for creative ways to stimulate economies, use resources more efficiently.
Now, something maybe more relatable for anyone who's interviewed for a job. The Denny's CEO strategy.
Kelly Valade, yeah. She shared her focus, candidate self-awareness, preparation, especially about their weaknesses.
And the red flag is not having an answer about weaknesses.
An immediate red flag, she called it. For her, it's not just about humility, it signals diligence, a growth mindset, the self-knowledge needed for leadership, especially in a fast-paced industry like hospitality. Knowing yourself is a key professional asset.
Interesting take. And speaking of modern advice, asking ChatGPT for financial cheat codes.
The Go banking rates did that, yeah. Ask the AI for effective habits, tools for income protection, growth. We don't have the full answer here, but the act of asking an AI for financial advice
Says a lot about how integrated AI is becoming.
into even really personal parts of our lives, investment strategies, budgeting tips, technology as the ubiquitous financial advisor, for better or worse.
Fascinating. Okay, from finance to health and well-being, always crucial. A top doctor revealing a surprising lifestyle factor for immunity.
Yeah, challenging the conventional wisdom that it's all about food or drink suggests a deeper look at holistic health.
Like what? Stress? Sleep?
Hints at factors like stress, sleep patterns, maybe even social connection, playing a much bigger role in our immune resilience than we often think. A call for a more comprehensive view of well-being.
And on a more serious note, that piece about the prostate cancer survivor.
Incredibly important. Detailing the struggles with the after effects of treatment. It sheds light on that really difficult, often long journey of managing post-intervention challenges, incontinence, sexual dysfunction, things people don't always talk about.
Underscoring the need for ongoing support beyond just the treatment phase.
Critical importance of emotional, psychological, physical support for survivors. Recovery is long, complex.
And highlighting healthcare access issues. The woman trying to open a birth center near a maternity desert.
That struggle underscores the huge challenges in healthcare access, maternal health, especially in underserved areas, like in the U.S., places where essential birthing services just aren't available, leading to worse outcomes for mothers, babies. It's a systemic problem.
Right. And in the UK, those ongoing doctor strikes.
Thousands of resident doctors striking over a long pay dispute with the government. And now, the Conservative Party reportedly considering banning strikes like these for essential public services.
That's a big step.
Reflects a real growing tension, doesn't it? Between labor rights for critical workers and the government's ability to maintain vital services without disruption. A clash between the right to protest and public welfare demands.
And a quick summer safety reminder, sunscreen.
Yes. Broad spectrum, SPF 15 plus way, protects against skin cancer, premature aging. Simple, crucial advice. Easy to forget.
Definitely. And finally, something unconventional. That mysterious blue substance RFK Jr. supposedly endorsed.
For jet lag, yeah. Someone tried it, experienced shocking effects. It definitely prompts a discussion, doesn't it? Health fads, unregulated supplements, personal experimentation.
And the unpredictable, potentially dangerous outcome.
Exactly. A wild frontier of self-medication out there. Culture, sports, and the unconventional.
All right, let's dive into culture, sports, and maybe the slightly weird. Entertainment first. Ozzy Osbourne passing at 76. A true icon.
Remarkable figure. That dual legacy is fascinating, isn't it? From the Prince of Darkness with Black Sabbath.
To somehow becoming reality TV's favorite dad on the Osbournes.
Completely different personas. And then that bizarre spike in his Spotify streams after news of his supposed death circulated, which turned out to be a hoax.
Adds a weird layer to media coverage of celebrity life, death, and impact. How public and private lives get tangled.
Incredible how some figures just transcend their original genre. And speaking of legacies and icons, sequel news, Bend It Like Beckham 2.
Reportedly in the works. And Adam Sandler apparently enlisting celebs for Happy Gilmore 2 cameos.
Bringing back another fan favorite. It reflects that ongoing Hollywood trend, doesn't it? Reviving beloved franchises, banking on nostalgia, existing fan bases instead of totally new ideas.
Definitely seems safer for studios sometimes. And then South Park. Never afraid of controversy?
Never. That recent episode with the scathing portrayal of President Trump, including that very explicit Trump-Satan sex scene.
Shocking, even for them, and their response.
Characteristically a fake apology, defiantly refused to blur it. Led to White House backlash, of course.
They didn't stop there, did they?
Yeah.
Mocking Paramount, CBS.
Yeah, mocking the studio, Paramount, referencing a rumored settlement with Trump. Accusing CBS of acting under political pressure from Trump to cancel a show. It's a prime example of that intersection. Satire, politics, media freedom, and how contentious it all is. Pushing boundaries.
Really pushes them. Okay, in a totally different, but maybe equally innovative vein, the Vatican hosting a digital evangelism summit.
In Rome, yeah. A modern approach to combat declining church attendance in Europe.
Bringing in influencers.
Hot priests.
That's the term being playfully used. Inviting Catholic influencers, priests with big social media followings like Fathers Fusari, Skina, Maza, to share religious messages on Instagram, TikTok.
The goal being to connect with younger audiences, where they actually are. Exactly. Younger folks often disengaged from traditional church, trying to integrate digital ethics with doctrine, leverage modern platforms for ancient messages. It's a fascinating leap into the digital age for the Catholic Church, acknowledging they need to engage differently.
A huge shift. And in Russia, big investment in arts infrastructure.
Yeah, signaling a push for cultural prominence. That new Sirius concert hall opened in Sochi, the Black Sea resort city.
The Mariinsky Theater Symphony Orchestra rehearsed there.
Right.
Led by Gergiev.
Yes. And the venue boasts state-of-the-art acoustics by Yasuhisa Toyota, the world-famous engineer. It signals a new era for arts there, positioning Sochi as a hub for international cultural collaboration, blending artistic ambition, national prestige.
And for music fans, a huge reunion. Destiny's Child.
Beyoncé reunited them at her final Cowboy Carter show, performed a medley of hits, a massive moment for fans who've hoped for that for years, underscores their legacy, the power of those comebacks.
Awesome. Okay, let's turn to sports with wider significance. Women's athletics growing huge. The Women's Euro 2025 final.
England versus Spain, a repeat of the 2023 World Cup final, which is significant in itself. Spain was leading 1-0 at the time of the source material. Highlights the growing prominence, excitement in women's football.
And England's manager, Serena Wigman. Incredible record.
5th major tournament final she's led a team to. Solidifies her reputation as one of the absolute best coaches in the sport.
And in Africa, the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, WIFCON.
Nigeria clinched their 10th title, defeating Morocco in a thrilling final, showcased rising talent across the continent. Ghana took 3rd place.
And the next WIFCON is important for the World Cup, too.
Yes, the 2026 tournament doubles as a qualifier for the 2027 Women's World Cup, shows the growing importance of these regional tournaments as pathways to global competition, elevating the profile of women's football in Africa.
And confirming that growth, BBC and ITV getting the rights for the 2027 Women's World Cup.
In Brazil, yeah. Underscores the increasing commercial value viewership. Women's sports are becoming really valuable assets for major broadcasters.
And a quick point on the Euros. Poland being the only Eastern European team.
Yeah, that question was raised. Raises questions about representation, the evolving landscape of European football. Maybe suggests a need to look at development, investment, qualification pathways across the continent for broader inclusion, competitive balance.
Good point. Okay, finally, let's get into the weird and wonderful, the unconventional, the unexpected, that Austrian train ordeal.
Oh yeah, 400 passengers stuck for 6 hours. Hot, dark ICE train in a tunnel near Vienna. Technical defect.
No injuries, thankfully.
Thankfully not. But it highlights those challenges, doesn't it? Infrastructure reliability, emergency response in confined spaces. A real test of patience.
Definitely. Then the California guinea pig rescue.
Surprising, maybe heartwarming. 400 guinea pigs rescued from truly deplorable hoarding conditions in LA. Brings attention to animal welfare, neglect, the work those organizations do.
And on a much sadder note, that temple stampede in India.
Tragic crowd crush. Mansa Devi Temple in Haridwar. At least 6 people killed. Panic after a high-voltage wire fell on the path.
Underscores the risks at huge gatherings, doesn't it? Need for better crowd management, infrastructure safety.
Absolutely critical in densely populated areas, especially during religious festivals or big events.
And this one is just bizarre. San Francisco residents getting tickets for parking in their own driveways.
Believing someone is trolling them, maliciously reporting them. A weird example of community friction turning into bureaucratic nightmares, the absurdities of city living sometimes.
Truly bizarre. And lastly, the most astonishing one, the infant biting the cobra.
In Brazil, yeah. Infant bravely bites a cobra to death after it coiled around his hands. Horrific, but just showcases extreme courage, primal survival instincts in the most terrifying circumstances imaginable.
A reminder of the wildness still out there, something you just never expect to hear. Pure unpredictability.
Astonishing is the word.
So, wow. We have navigated a truly packed day of global headlines, haven't we?
We really have.
From the just agonizing complexities of aiding Gaza, the shifting sands of alliances, economic pressures,
to the very real, accelerating impacts of climate change, the evolving, sometimes really bizarre role of tech in our lives.
It's been a lot to process, a real deluge.
But what's fascinating, and what we really hope you've taken away, is how these seemingly disconnected events,
like a terror attack in Iran, a celebrity's legacy, even that child and the cobra,
they all contribute to this incredibly intricate tapestry of our global story. Each piece, looked at closely, reveals something deeper about human nature, societal structures, our undeniable interconnectedness.
They're not just isolated incidents, they're threads in this much larger, evolving narrative that affects us all.
Exactly. So as we think about those urgent calls for action, like in Gaza, the complex political maneuvering on the world stage, the constant reshaping of our digital and physical worlds.
How might those seemingly smaller, more personal stories we talked about, communities battling wildfires, the Vatican trying to reach out in new ways,
how might they offer clues about the most effective paths forward, not just for nations facing huge challenges, but for us as individuals trying to make sense of it all, maybe make a difference in this world just overflowing with information?
What stands out to you from today's deep dive? And how might it maybe reshape your understanding of the forces at play in our world today?